Hello and welcome to my top of the dome review of Starfleet Academy. We have a lot to talk about, clearly. So we've only gotten the first 2 episodes of Starfleet Academy. And, although my channel isn't around reviews per se, I do like the videos where I get to just straight off the top of the dome,
I am the one, the way your son don't need a gun to get
just kind of say how I feel about something with minimal editing on the videos and just kind of giving my opinions on certain things. Why not? It's fun for me. With this show, man, like I said, I made a video, my last video, just kind of going into some of the hate around some of the women within Starfleet, this series, Starfleet Academy, the fat phobia and some other phobias that were going on within you so-called a certain sphere of the, I guess, fan base of Star Trek, I guess if you can call them fans. And so I was just addressing some things that I felt like needed to be addressed. In that video, I did mention that I don't think I would like the show. Like when they said something about it, I was just like, cool. I mean, I guess it didn't really pique my interest. I'm 26. And so for me, I think even if I was a teenager, I probably wouldn't really care too much about that, just because it just doesn't pique my interest. But I do think it's a really cool concept, though. Like, I love the idea of being able to see, okay, so let's get an inside look of how the Academy actually is. And the reason why I felt that way is because, even watching the earlier 2000s Star Trek movies, I personally love those movies. I don't care what anybody says. I could rewatch those movies. It's just those are fun movies for me. The first two, at least. The first two. Yeah, I mean, just seeing the little glimpses that we got when they're in the Academy, just kind of seeing a glimpse of what student life might have been like for them. For me, it was kind of cool. I feel like in that sense, it seemed kind of interesting to see, okay, what was this show going to be about? What kind of topics are we going into? How are their lifestyles going to be looking like? Especially because this is happening hundreds of years after the original series that we see, or I guess even some of the other modern Star Trek shows, and every Star Trek show we've had so far. This series is hundreds of years after that, obviously. And so this is my perspective on everything. So what do you guys feel about the burn? This whole concept of the burn, pretty much all this stuff being wiped out, Starfleet pretty much kind of just crumbling from that. It's a sad concept. I don't really know how the fans feel about it. I think for me, I feel like they kind of want an excuse to kind of get a clean slate and kind of get away from what we know from Star Trek, in a sense, to where they could kind of start over and kind of tell their own story of Starfleet in a different context, I guess. I don't really know. I guess it gave them a little bit more creative leeway, even though I feel like it wasn't really necessary, because just like Star Wars, I feel like if you, no matter where you start at in the timeline, whether that's going back to the past, staying in the current timeline, as far as when the first series was made, and kind of branching out, and staying and within that, or just going way in the future, it doesn't matter how you do it. You can create good stories regardless. So I don't really know. The reason why I bring that up is because obviously it does play a part in Starfleet Academy, and how, I guess, them trying to rebuild things and trying to reestablish things and trying to basically get Starfleet back to not what it used to be, but just better, even better than it was in the past. The main character that we get is Caleb. To be honest, he doesn't really pique my interest too much. He kind of gives me the vibe of that kid that's nobody can understand the pain that I've been through. And I've been through things or whatever. And obviously he's going to become a person that's without him really trying to or making the effort to, he's going to become the guy. He's going to get the friends. He's going to, somehow become a community man, where he's this loner who's been through a lot and keeps to himself. He's going to get a friend group. He's going to learn how to rely on others, be there for others, allow people to be there for him, and just kind of open up more and become, I guess, a well-developed person by the end. And of course he has this conflict where, of course, Starfleet has kind of impacted his life in a negative way. He hasn't had the best experience, especially with them dealing with his mom and kind of all that whole situation. I can understand why he might be in conflict in a sense, but to me it's not that significant of a story, and I feel like him as a main character is just kind of I mean, I don't hate it, but at the same time it's not really that interesting to me either. And I guess his love interest, I have the cast pulled up here because I'm terrible with names as a dyslexic. Anyways, her name is Tarima, whatever.
I don't understand!
Tarima, whatever, her that girl. I thought the scene that was so cringe is so funny was when he was just like, I only knew you for like 2 seconds. And then he was just like, he was just like, I didn't think I need to tell you that or whatever. And then like, I guess he was just saying how he was just like, just go back to your whatever, like go back to your good life with all your money and all your snacks and all your fruits. You wouldn't understand my life. I've been through hard things. Not exactly what he said, but it's kind of like the vibe it kind of gave off, which is like the typical like, I have a hard life, you're privileged, and you would never understand my experience, so just go. That's kind of the vibe it gave. But I think honestly for the first 2 episodes, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really care too much for it. What I did like was the graphics, the CGI, all of it. It was so pleasing to the eye for me. It seemed so interesting. Like everything was so vibrant, so colorful. And I feel like if I were to watch it again, I'll probably notice certain things that I didn't notice before as far as like different, I guess, CGI or effects or something like that, especially like with certain things. It's just really cool, I must say. I would say that. Some of it you could clearly tell that it was CGI, so it kind of like felt a little bit too fake-ish, if that makes sense. But other than that, like I thought it looked pretty cool. I also like how on the ship or whatever, like it seemed like it felt like a campus. It felt like it was a real environment. It felt like full, like you had students everywhere, and it's kind of like, it was pretty chill. I like that part of it. As far as Nala Aki, the I guess you could call her, what you call her, the captain, I guess. I think there's another name for her too, but I don't have the brain power to think about that right now. But even for her, I didn't hate her. I know that she got dragged very badly, especially when the first teaser came out, whatever, for the Starfleet Academy, and people were mad about how she was sitting in a chair. They're mad about how she was sitting in a chair because she had obviously she looked kind of pathetic according to some other people about, according to the character or whatever. For me personally, I don't hate the character. I mean, just like anybody, I'm not crazy about any of the characters within the series so far at least, but like with her, I didn't hate it. I know some people are going to be mad about the fact that she was like slouched in the captain's chair reading a book and just kind of just like, I guess she's not like that serious, if that makes sense. Like she just kind of has like this very like chill, like, look, I've been living for hundreds of years. This is just another day for me, type of situation. I think some people aren't going to like that vibe that she gives because I guess she doesn't match what they would prefer as a captain. But for me, I didn't really hate it too much. I kind of want to see more from her and see like how she develops over time. I thought she was kind of funny, interesting in a sense, I guess. She kind of gives like that vibe of like, those movies where like you have like that one white savior teacher that like goes into like the hood, or like maybe some type of teacher and she teaches bad kids, or like maybe she's in the hood or something and she wants to try to fix them or something like that, or like be their voice, be the one that sees them and wants better for them. That's kind of the vibe that she gives me. Not saying that like she's a white savior or whatever. I'm just saying that's the vibe that it gives. Not saying that's like, as far as like, especially, her believing in the students, wanting, kind of being their advocate and being able to kind of like, I guess, change the perspective of some of the people around her who might not think that what she's doing makes sense or whatever, or understand like her perspective. I think it's kind of cool that she is advocating for them and understanding how they play a pivotal part in making things better in a society where things pretty much things have crumbled. There's a lot of terrible things that have happened, and I think she's trying to take that into account and use that to understand that this is how we change things. Is we need to listen to these younger people. We need to give them an opportunity to learn and grow, and we can learn from them as well. So I thought that was kind of cool too. So I was just sitting here editing. Excuse how I look, guys. I'm drinking my hot chocolate and I'm enjoying this cold weather and getting some editing done. But anyways, I was thinking, because I forgot to mention this, is the one weird part that I noticed is, why was, I forgot her name, I'm sorry, but like the way she's like a principal, whatever, I don't know what her title is. I'm not gonna try to think or pretend like I know the name of her character either. But anyways, why was she just walking into Caleb's like quarters like that? Like he wasn't even fully dressed, and I feel like it shouldn't be protocol like preventing like higher ups or even just like other people from just being able to walk inside of a student or a cadet, whatever, a cadet's like bedroom without knocking or something. Like, shouldn't there be some type of regulation on how that would go down? Because tell me why she's in there just chilling, walk around, whatever, while he's clearly getting dressed. He's not fully dressed, That was weird to me. Like, out of everything that I've seen from her, this is me also post watching the third episode. So out of everything that I've seen, that was the weirdest thing. That felt out of place and inappropriate. I feel like that was weird. And I think there should be some type of separation when it comes to cadet and any type of like faculty or higher up. And I just feel like they get a little bit too comfortable in a sense of there should be a sense of separation. And I feel like that's something that does come across kind of weird. I get that they want to create a sort of like, you know, not family, but you know, that sense of like comfort, sense of like somewhat family within the academy, just so it feels more warm and like, you know, whatever. And so I get that, but I do feel like that part is a little bit weird. I feel like they should have a little bit more separation. And yeah, then we get to the foot part, especially when we see in like episode 3, her with the whole foot thing. Like, she just has her feet out, and it's funny because it throws you off in a sense, but at the same time it's like, what's going on with that? Like, what? Like, when I noticed it and when I saw that she had little like the feet jewelry or whatever that was dangling like off her foot or whatever on her foot, I was just like, bro, what the heck is going on? I'm like, bro, she's a goof bag, bro. She gives me like Yoda vibes with Luke when Yoda was acting like he was like out of it, like he was acting nuts to test Luke or whatever. But like, it was that's kind of the vibe that she was giving.
Hey. That's fine, or I will help you not. Slimy, my home this is. Fine. R2.
I don't necessarily hate her character. I understand why some people would think that. I understand having like a weird sort of authority, or like, you know what I mean, like it's different than what we've seen, but at the same time it's like, how much is too much? And that's where I'm at with her. It's like, I like her, but and I like the fact that she's actually very intelligent. I like the way that she thinks, and her method is interesting as well for teaching the cadets. But at the same time, it's like certain things just kind of, I'm like, that's kind of weird. And even though she's not like, you know, actually working on a ship or anything like that, or like doing any type of like really really serious work where her behavior would obviously be an issue, and I feel like that would definitely be out of place. Even working on, you know, at the academy or whatever, I guess it's like, maybe it's serious, but it's not like as serious, you know what I mean? Like, literally episode 3, it was more so about a rivalry. So like a little rivalry between schools or whatever. And so it's just kind of like, it, you know, it's like, I get that it's not like high intensity, but at the same time, I'm like I said, how much is too much? And that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to her character. And I'm trying to see where it goes with her and everything. I think it's funny, and I don't really hate it per se because it's entertaining to watch. I just don't understand like, why is she like that? Like, I don't but at the same time, I think she has a certain level of depth that I find that's why I don't really hate it completely, is because like, I'm like, she's kind of, I see why she's has a position that she has and why she works with students the way that she does. I'm gonna get more into that later in the video, so I don't want to say too much, but basically I just wanted to mention that because I didn't mention that when I did that part. Yeah. It's like, as far as Laura thought, the I guess half-breed Klingon, I feel like she was kind of interesting. I didn't hate it, and I feel like, you know, one thing I can't stand are the racist people that are kind of using her as a punching bag. Not even just her, but just like even like I said, the characters that they're being fat phobic about, and how they're just kind of using these characters as punching bags, and she's one of them. I feel like she's a pretty interesting character, and I feel like she's very proud of who she is and where she comes from and her culture and stuff like that. It might come across as a little bit like at some moments, but I like the fact that they reference things from other series and kind of like made her character make sense around like her back, you know, who she is, you know what I mean, like her background and everything. And I like that from her, you know what I'm saying? It was chill, it was cool. One character that I was kind of surprised at was Sam, which is the holographic character. I did not expect her to not be annoying. Like, she wasn't as annoying as I was thinking she was gonna be. I think that, of course, that character doesn't necessarily pique my interest, but I thought she was gonna kind of be like very annoying, kind of like the Tilly of the series. A lot of people don't like Tilly for a lot of different reasons, and a lot of them just felt like she was just kind of incompetent as well. Like, she was just kind of like all over the place. Like, how did you even graduate from the academy, and why are you even here, type thing. And so with Sam being a holographic, you know, her trying to kind of navigate, like, I guess her programming and like where she fits in and stuff like that, I thought was kind of interesting. I think some people see her as kind of neurodivergent and like coded and stuff like that as well, which I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate to with her character trying to understand herself and others around her. I think that's a pretty cool concept. But you know who was annoying? Who was annoying is that one background character girl who swallowed her badge. She is an annoying character. And I'm like, she's not even a main character and she's annoying. Now, she definitely gives me the vibe of, why are you here? Like the first day she came in there saying she swallowed her badge, she's out. What are you doing here? You are not gonna make it. And then all the whole thing with when they're under attack, and then she started talking about some red alert. Red alert. Get her out of here. She's no, that can't be right. I mean, do they not do like those psychological tests or something like that before they enroll these kids into the academy? I think that she's a danger to herself and everyone around her. She shouldn't be on anybody's ship. She shouldn't be working anywhere near Starfleet. That's my opinion. But not only that, but like, I feel like she's probably gonna be like that background character that we kind of get hints of throughout the show. To kind of, I guess, make it feel like a real, like, make it feel more whole, right? Like, she's not a main character, but you still get to see her kind of go through her own like character development probably. Like by the end of the series, she might be a more competent, more confident character. Maybe she's overcome something or kind of gotten out of that weird like paranoia that she goes through or whatever she's going through mentally. Like maybe she's able to kind of lock in and or something, and probably will be better developed by the end of the series. Another character I thought was interesting was Tarima's brother. It's so funny. Okay, so when he first they kind of introduced him as like he was gonna be this chill, this cool guy, right? Talking about some go get him, and then like what the fuck? By the end of the episode, in episode 2, this guy is who even is that? I did not see that coming. I'm like, oh gosh, she's gonna be one of those characters. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I feel like the bully that they have isn't even really a bully. I'm like, you really have the nerve to try to bully people when you look like that? Where you have to change how you look just so that like you can not be like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of funny to me. Like you have the nerve to be a bully and your whole appearance is fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, be bold, be who you are and bully people, but how you gonna be this insecure and then try to think you're gonna bully somebody or harass somebody? Like, he doesn't give me like the vibe that he's gonna be like a bully the whole time. Even like towards the end of the episode too, like he seems to be making friends with Caleb or whatever. They seem to be kind of cool or whatever, but that's cool, I guess. I think, you know, the whole love triangle thing that I think might happen between Caleb and Genesis and the Tarima girl, I don't really care for it. I don't really care for the romance, honestly. And it's crazy. It's kind of crazy to say because I'm kind of like a sucker for that type of thing. I love coming of age stuff. You know, it's fun. But at the same time, I'm like, this doesn't give me the vibe that I would care. Like, I hope that the series doesn't focus a lot on the romance part. I know that kind of is crazy because it seems to be focused around younger people. But honestly, the romantic parts are so boring, and I hate the word cringe, but this is literally what it is. Like, it's just like, ugh. You know, that's how it felt. Like, ugh. Okay. You know? And so, yeah, hopefully that's not too much of a thing. Also, like I said, the whole dialogue and some of the parts in it just felt kind of cheesy to me. I didn't completely hate some of the storylines going on, but I thought that a lot of the cussing and like certain parts are just like, ugh. Like, I get it, like they're young, they just, you know, they're gonna say what they're gonna say, but it's just like, it felt weird. Like, it didn't feel like natural. You know, like if I were to see a Starfleet, and I think that's why I liked the Academy from the early 2000s movies, because even though we didn't get a lot from that, I wish we would have got a little bit more. It was interesting. Like, it gave you like that early like 2000s vibe, like socially and everything. Like, it just felt like it was interesting. I don't really know how else to put it. It seemed like it was an exciting environment to be in. This Starfleet Academy seems just kind of stale. I don't really know how else to put it. But anyways, like, I guess, you know, it makes sense because they're young and everything, but I just didn't really find it that interesting. And then you have the Klingon character, J. Dean Krog. Anyways, with him, I liked his character, and I first of all, F everybody who was trying to be homophobic towards this guy. just leave the dude alone, okay? And this is another thing too. Like I said, the thing I can't stand, racism masked as criticism or whatever. Like, I just feel like it's so messed up that people are just clearly being racist towards a lot of characters here, or homophobic towards some of these characters. I feel like with his character, what I liked is that it's gonna be interesting to see how his character develops over time. Like, he comes off as a softie, and I feel like it's kind of off-putting in a sense, because like the voice doesn't match his energy and vibes. It just feels wrong, because like we know that Klingons are like rough and just like grr, right? And so he talks and everything, and he has like this softness, this delicate interior, right? It's just kind of like, it just comes off as like, that's what I'm saying. That's literally the vibe of the whole like series so far for me. It's just okay, all right, okay. Like his character seems like he's gonna come into his own. I mean, he's pretty much in his own, like he kind of has an idea of who he is already in a sense, but I think it's going to be interesting how he is able to kind of not try to live based off of other people's expectations of him and stuff like that. I think he feels the need to explain himself, kind of like how he did with Caleb, as to like, he watches birds and stuff like that, and like, oh, his mom taught him this, and like, this type of thing, like where you might feel like he has to like explain himself on why he is the way that he is. But it's also cool to see a Klingon working amongst everybody else as well within Starfleet, because we know that Klingon and Starfleet, they have not had the best history. So I think it's kind of interesting to kind of see a new type of Klingon that we haven't gotten before also working within Starfleet, that is going to have the spotlight to grow, and we get to kind of see a different perspective. I wish I would have had another Klingon character, one a little bit more, I think we do kind of get that with Laura Thok. Like, I think you kind of get that in a sense where she's kind of like, bro, I need you the Klingon in you, I need you to step into that right now. We need that. Kind of helping him to kind of accept himself and accept that part of him as well, and not see it as something that he has to kind of like mask or anything. The doctor is okay. He's kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of what else. New Spraka, the villain. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think it's a pretty good villain, I guess. I don't know, bro. I just felt like, I don't know, because I guess maybe like the storytelling for me the past 2 episodes was not very interesting. So the encounter that we got with him throughout the series so far, within the first 2 episodes, it kind of felt like an episode of like a cartoon, or like, you have like a kind of a different threat like every episode, but like, I don't really know how to explain it. It's just, if like, I'll be back next time, I'm gonna get you type of situation. Like, I'm like, he's gonna probably come back again. I don't know if he's gonna be like the Joker to Batman, or like, kind of like that vibe, right? I don't really know how else to explain it. I think he poses a pretty good threat, especially because his history with Caleb. He's definitely not very likable, in the sense of like, you definitely want to see him go down for sure. Like, he's just a trash like person. And yeah, I mean, just off the top of my head, I probably don't have a lot to say, just because like I said, I probably need to go and rewatch it, honestly, just because I just got really bored watching it. I'm trying to think of a word that I would explain this series in the way that I feel about the writing and the storytelling and the characters. And what comes to me is Kids Bop. I know that's not one word, but I'm like, a vibe, right? I'm like, it feels, I don't even know if serialized is the right word to use. I don't even know what that even means. I don't even know why it pops up, but it feels just like, oh, I have an idea. I know how to solve this. Or even with the whole situation with Laura Thok, right? When she needed help and needed them to save her or whatever, and just how all that felt kind of just typical. It came across like cheesy a little bit. It just kind of like felt like, oh, of course, this is gonna work as a team. You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta step up and do what you gotta do. It just came across like they were definitely trying to push a certain, like, they're growing. They're gonna have to challenge. I don't really know how else to explain it, man. This is an issue of being a dyslexic person. Articulation. I can write very well, but speaking, it's hard to put my thoughts into words. But anyways, it just it just kind of felt like the typical kind of like plot point, or like the typical type of storytelling that you would expect, but in like in a cheesy type of way. But they're trying, right? It's not like unwatchable, but it's definitely kind of one of those situations where it's just giving like not cartoon, but like definitely made for younger people probably. But all in all, I feel like Starfleet Academy, I guess, is doing what it's supposed to do. I don't really know. I just know a lot of people are hating on it, of course. But I mean, I think, you know, I gotta give it some more time for sure. But as of right now, I'm not really too crazy about it. I'll give it, right now my heart is saying 6.5 out of 10, but like I kind of want to make it lower. Maybe like a 5.5 out of 10. I would probably say 5.5, maybe lower than that. Oh, I don't know. Point is that for me right now, I don't care for it. I think that they need to, I just kind of wish it was a little bit less like, I need things to be a little bit more interesting, not the typical like thing you would expect from a show like this. I kind of want there to be a little bit more like interesting. Yes, like we still get like little romances and stuff here and there, but I kind of want to get more, I don't know, realness with that, but done in a different way. Like I think the concept of course having people in difficult positions that have to kind of step up and seeing them learn over time, yes, it's interesting, but I don't want to see it in a typical way that we're always seeing it constantly over and over, right? It's just the same trope, and I feel like that's kind of what's annoying, because it's kind of like old, it's just done in a Star Trek way. It's just kind of like we can do something different here in a sense. I know they're doing something different already. What I'm saying is I feel like some of these things can be done in a way that's not so like cheesy and so like typical, if that makes sense. Like it's very predictable what they're doing here, especially with a lot of characters as well. I would like to be wrong about that, but it seems like the characters are already kind of obviously, you kind of know how the end game is going to be for them. What do you guys think? Are you guys disappointed about it? Do you like it? Did you not like it? What would you rate the show yourself? And are you going to continue to watch it, or you just kind of like, or maybe you never watched it at all? You know, let me know down in the comment section below. More videos coming, so stay blessed up, guys, and I'll see you next time on the Top of the Dome segment with yours truly, me. Halfway through editing this video, episode 3 dropped. Now, I was trying to get this video out before then, but unfortunately the semester started for school, so I've been trying to get on a schedule, and I just didn't finish editing in time. But anyways, I want to give my brief opinion, because I do feel like, you know, talking about episode 3 would be kind of good to kind of tie in everything that I've set up until this point, in a sense. But just some things straight off of the brain that I can say about the 3rd episode is that at first, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a very boring episode, probably up until like probably 30 minutes into the episode. Like I was kind of bored with it, you know what I'm saying? I also thought it was kind of weird how they're kind of like in a gymnasium or like in a gym for training. I just feel like that was very old school, if that makes sense. Like we're talking about like we're way in the future. Why are they in a gym class in a way that we would be in a gym class? Like it felt a little bit too familiar for me, especially because of their technology and everything. It just kind of felt weird that it was such a basic type of training in a university that's, I guess, you know, preparing them for real world experiences. And later in the episode, you see them playing a sport. I forgot what it's called, but that's what I would imagine the training would more so be around, rather than being in a gymnasium and climbing ropes and doing push-ups. I'm sure that stuff is important, but what I'm saying is in the future, I would guess that things would be a little bit different, you know, training would be a little bit more advanced in some instances, but I'm not really mad at it. Like it's not like a pet peeve. It was just something that I felt like was kind of strange. Yeah, so starting out the episode, we got to get a little bit more familiar with Darum, and you know, initially when the season started, he came off not kind of like a bully in a sense, but you could tell like he's probably not really that big of a, like, he didn't really seem like he was gonna be like a really big like threat, if that makes sense. Like he wasn't really portrayed to be like some big bully that would be a real issue. He was more so just like an annoying, like, you know, somewhat of like an a-hole type of character. But what I liked is that, you know, throughout this episode is that we got to see him grow a lot, and we also got a little bit of backstory as far as, you know, his parents, him having issues, you know, his parents. And honestly, I kind of like the guy. I kind of, you know, he's kind of warming up on me, you know. I kind of, I don't know, I kind of have a little bit of a soft side for him, not because of his sob story, but because, you know, he just really genuinely seems like a sweet person that has a lot of growth to do. But I think that I'm really enjoying his journey so far and his development, and having to kind of humble himself. Also learning how to show up for others and not be so selfish as well. And it's kind of interesting how him and Genesis kind of having, they're very similar to each other, and how they also have similar upbringings in certain senses of like trying to live up to certain expectations and, trying to not necessarily impress their parents, but like, like this whole thing with their parents and like wanting to kind of live up to like standard and like kind of be the best and all that. And they both kind of have like their own little growth on their own, which I feel like was actually pretty enjoyable for me to see. Was it kind of a typical situation? Yeah, I already kind of felt like we already knew what the outcome would be. I just feel like the journey to getting there was somewhat rewarding. I enjoyed it, like seeing the development of these characters, and I feel like this is really like a character growth episode for some of these characters. And with Caleb, it was kind of typical what I already felt it was going to happen with him, as far as like really enjoying being a part of a group, but kind of trying to resist that, trying to stay independent and not really give into this idea of, Starfleet and all this other type of stuff, right? But on the inside, like, he really does love it and he really does enjoy it. And we just know he's going to become the guy, the group guy. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he becomes a leader himself. And yeah, I'm kind of enjoying this group of misfits, if you will, coming together and becoming a team. Like I said, it's kind of like the typical trope of like, a bunch of people you wouldn't expect to be friends becoming friends, and they're growing together and improving together. Like, it's kind of the typical thing, right? It's kind of interesting. I'm not gonna lie, like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I do feel like there's a sense of intrigue for me when it comes to some of these characters and their development. And when it comes to Jaden, oh my gosh, I feel like he's so adorable. I think he's kind of awkward but funny, and I can't wait to see what they do more with his character. I feel like this episode wasn't necessarily surrounding his character that much. I don't feel like it was really meant for that in this episode, but even still, I think we got to see like, the silly side. Not really silly, but like, he's a funny guy. I feel like it's hard to not like him. I feel like some people are gonna, I guess some people find it easy too, but I kind of find him kind of adorable, pretty cool guy, and I want to kind of see how he grows and what his development is going to be throughout the series. With Sam, we didn't really get much from Sam. I also feel the same way towards her. Like, I kind of find her to be adorable, whereas I thought that she would be annoying at first. I just feel like she's kind of like somewhat like a beacon of light. Like, she's not like too much, but I feel like I just love her energy and just being so like seemingly positive and just like smiley, and like I just love her energy. It doesn't come off as too much, but it genuinely just seems like she's just happy to be there. And, I enjoy that. I think she kind of helps to balance out, everything else. And like I said, they don't really do too much. It'll be annoying if like she was always doing too much and just, but it's not like that at all. I think one character I'm not too crazy about is Tarima. Like, I feel like it's going to be, I don't think that her character arc is that interesting to me. I do think that probably at some point in the series she's probably gonna have some type of, maybe like an instance where maybe she exposes herself or whatever it is that she deals with, that she has, maybe something's gonna happen with that maybe is gonna play a part in, like, I don't know, maybe something happens with it and then people become more aware of like, what she's dealing with. Maybe that could be like in a negative way, like somehow it kind of exposes whatever it is that she has going on. As far as, I don't want to say her powers because they're not necessarily powers, but like her abilities and stuff like that, and just how she feels things so deeply and stuff like that. It's kind of like, I wonder like, okay, so what happens when things go wrong? Like, what's the negative side effect? She's in this new environment, she's dealing with, Caleb and the feelings with him, and it's just kind of like, will there be a situation where something triggers her and maybe something happens that maybe puts others in danger or whatnot? So that's kind of something that I'm kind of anticipating. Genesis seems like, she's a pretty interesting character. I don't really know if anything significant will happen with this character. I feel like in this episode they did a pretty good job of just kind of like, showing us a little bit of her side, like she's very competitive. She wants to be the best. She's also like, I feel like a great example of what Star Trek stands for, like just the way that she's able to think and operate. And I feel like she's a pretty good leader as well. Like, seems like she's willing to think and willing to think outside of the box, and she really wants to kind of embody what Starfleet is. And I like that for her. So I like this character. I feel like she's gonna be somebody that's gonna keep everybody else in line as well. And I think that I enjoy her, nothing too crazy with that one. As far as, something that I really did enjoy was Thok and Reno. I did not realize they're going to be in a relationship or anything, but what I liked about it is that it wasn't like they made it a huge thing. It was more so like they kind of showed them together working with the students. You know what I mean? Like you didn't really think anything was really going on, and you kind of enjoy their chemistry and how like Reno understands Thok, and they have like this funny like humorous thing going on between them. But like you don't really know that they're together until later in the episode, and it's kind of like, oh, I like that actually. That makes sense. Not even that it makes sense, but it's just kind of like I can appreciate it, because it wasn't like they just threw it in your face right away. It's kind of like you just kind of got to see like them together, and then it's like when you say that they're together, it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then it all pieces together pretty well. But I find it funny. They're funny together. I didn't expect that at all. If anybody who's ever like tried to finish Star Trek Discovery, you would know that Reno had a pretty tragic story in the past with her wife, I believe, and that was very hard for her. And so to see her in a happy relationship with Thok, and how she gave up being on, Discovery to be with her, I think that's amazing, and I love that for her character, which kind of makes me more invested just because I'm aware of that. And so it's just kind of like I can appreciate their relationship. And I also like Thok as a character overall. She's funny, and I feel like she has a lot of different layers that I kind of am interested in exploring more. We kind of got an idea of why she decided to work at the academy. It was because she believed in Starfleet and their pursuit for peace and all of that, and I thought that was pretty cool, and I appreciated her character for that, for what she stands for. It's kind of interesting that like she stands for peace, but also like it's like this funny thing of like also violence being a thing with her, just because being half like Klingon and all that, like it's kind of like it makes sense that she would kind of have that, but also like she has this softness, and the reason why she's like that, like aggressive, is because she cares about these students and wants them to survive, and she's very passionate about what she's doing, and I love that energy. Yeah, I'm really enjoying that, and I enjoy seeing her, Nala, Aki together as well, and like their dynamic, and how Thought kind of has a different like mindset than Nala, but they're able to kind of come together, and they kind of help each other to grow and give each other like a different perspective that creates a great dynamic, I feel personally. Now as for Nala Aki, for anybody who didn't like her in the first 2 episodes, I feel like this episode really kind of gave you a different perspective of her, and understanding how her mind works, and like why she's so unique, but also like how it makes sense, and why I actually kind of like that. I wasn't against it in the beginning part in the first place, but I think that what grew on me was she's growing on me. Like I don't care the fact that she's not necessarily what we would expect from any other like I guess authority within Star Trek or within Starfleet in and of itself, but I kind of like that for her, and I think that her working at the academy with students is exactly where she should be. Just like the way that she's able to think, and the way that she's able to understand them and know what she needs to do to help them to learn without trying, I just love the way that she thinks, and challenging these students in ways that gets them to figure it out, what I'm saying, giving them little hints, and like but trying not to do the work for them, you know what I mean? I think that at first the beginning part of the episode, it was kind of like, okay, like, what's the point? But then as it went on and everything pieced together, it's like, wow, I really actually enjoy the message here. It does feel Star Trek to me, as far as the messaging, and her saying that it's not about a tit for tat. It's about trying to end the war as quickly as possible to save as much people as possible, understanding your enemies, stuff like that. I love that. And the whole idea of patience and empathy, and how it all played a part in how the episode went, and I loved that. I loved the message there, and I feel like a lot of the MAGA so-called Star Trek fans could learn a thing or two from this episode. I like the way that they wrote this episode, how it came together. Like I said, do I still think it was kind of boring at the start? Yeah. Do I still feel like I kind of liked the episode in a sense of what it did for the characters and how it kind of is starting to establish itself as like a real like Star Trek series, and how it seems to understand what Star Trek is made for, like what it's about. Like it seems like it's kind of intentional. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Like I said, I still have my feelings about it. Like I'm not crazy about it, but I am more optimistic about it. I am more curious about it. Before I was saying I'll probably rate it a 5.5, but now I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll bump that up to a 6 or a 6.5. So I'll see how this will go as more episodes release. But as of right now, like I'm a little bit more intrigued, a little bit more interested, and it's kind of fun so far. I'm really appreciating what they're doing so far with the characters, and also like just how they are standing on Starfleet values and how they're showing that through the series and through these lessons that these students are learning along the way, and these students finding themselves along the way, and also being able to grow together and support each other, and learning how to be a group and use each other's strengths to for the bigger, I guess I won't say mission, but the bigger goal. Like it's about teamwork, and I feel like that was a huge part in this episode as well, was them learning how to be a team using their strengths, and also leaning on Starfleet values rather than trying to get a little tit for tat or revenge. Like they learned what Starfleet is, and that was how they're able to win. Learning their enemy, being patient, and coming from a place of empathy, things like that. Like actually thinking strategically on how do we end this, instead of making a situation where they just keep going back and forth. I love that. That was my review up until this point. I might continue to do more straight off the dome reviews, like if I feel like it, like if I feel like I should. But anyways, with that being said, that's it. That's all I got for you.